Monday Night Fun at Mile High. The Broncos with a very impressive win over one of the top 32 teams in the National Football League. We're also going to be joined by Mina Kimes. She was her class valedictorian in high school, graduated summa cum laude from Yale. Her IQ, that's bigger than the three of us, that's for sure.
Combined. And you thought we wouldn't make it to week 2. You thought that, didn't you? We are here after the horn, our second After the Horn show. Ron Zappolo here along with my two good friends, Woody Paige and Tom Green. We've made it. Fellas, it is good to see you.
You say that. You were the only one that said, guys, I don't think we're going to make it.
But I believed him. He's usually right.
Oh, hey, let's get right to it. Let's get to the front page. Hey, as Tom so eloquently put it,
misspelled.
Oh, that's the alternate spelling. There's no I.
Who wants to start with what happened at the stadium?
Well, it was clearly a mismatch. The Broncos got what they needed. They got right, and that was what was expected against Cincinnati. But for people who were just tuning in to watch a good football game, sadly, the Bengals showed up. And Woody, that makes this game, I think, really hard to measure because the Bengals really appeared to be a team in disarray.
It would have been what I would consider a much more fair contest if one of the best quarterbacks in all of football is able to play in the game. Jake Browning, you go, wasn't he in the USFL for 3 years or something like that? And unfortunately for Cincinnati, they have had a string of injuries with Joe Burrow over the years, and that's kept them from really being a more effective team. When he has been healthy, they've actually almost reached the Super Bowl and become a National Football League champion. But without him, they're basically nothing.
Yeah, and they have spent a lot of money on Joe Burrow and the receivers and not enough on the offensive line.
Yeah.
And that's why Joe Burrow gets hurt. My take on the game, I thought it was a blatant example of why the NFL is changing every rule to protect quarterbacks. Okay? That product that we saw was not any good. In the problem, the quarterback is the most important position in all of professional sports. That team, without their quarterback, even with 2 all-pro wide receivers, was helpless. And I know because of the salary cap, backup quarterbacks get a short shrift, but that product is not good.
I've known you forever, but I've never heard you give me an answer to why you can change the game so it doesn't make it so quarterback oriented and so dependent on the quarterback being in a game.
It's hard to do now, Woody, because the game has changed from years ago when we started covering the Broncos, and you could win a championship with defense, a solid running game, and you throw the ball a little bit. Every rule has been changed. For now, when you walk out and watch an NFL quality team, they have to have a quarterback that throws for over 4,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
So let's talk about where that leaves the Broncos, because the question always with the Broncos is, what about Bo Nix? Is Bo Nix the second coming? Is Bo Nix just another guy? We'd seen him struggle in some games with accuracy, with footwork. He always seems like he's sped up. Clearly, that wasn't a high level of competition he faced yesterday. The Broncos were able to do whatever they wanted. They could run the ball. They could run some gadget plays, do whatever they like. But you grade Bo Nix because it's been a short sample size in 2 years now. Last night was a good night, but it was against a bad team. How much does it matter?
It's funny. I walked through the studio earlier this morning, and one of the other guys that works here with Guerrilla Sports is a former quarterback for the Denver Broncos. And Jake Plummer, who we're talking about, came here and had a 7-4 record one year for the Denver Broncos, as was replaced by a guy named Jake Cutler, who turned out to be one of the worst mistakes in the history of the National Football League, if you will. That Jake Plummer, to me, was the correct kind of quarterback you wanted. Tough guy, not a big guy.
He was a veteran when he came here.
Yeah, 6'1". He weighed about 220, 225. And he could run the football. He could pass the football. He could be tough. And if you remember, Mike Shanahan really used him effectively on the fake, where he would then roll out and pick up 8 to 10 yards. And so the game has changed from a Jake Plummer type to becoming a Jay Cutler type, a guy that was going to just fling it.
Yep.
And if you remember correctly about Jay Cutler, he announced within a week of being here, I have a stronger arm than John Elway. I'm going to throw it better than John Elway, and he never did. But I was thinking about that last night, and then seeing Jake today, that Jake Plummer was what we were talking about in regard to Bo Nix at the time. That Bo Nix is, you either drive or you slide with Bo Nix, it seems to be. However, in regard to the game last night, I think that those of us in the media who have pushed Sean Payton into running the football finally
took the words out of my mouth.
Finally got our wish.
They ran the ball.
Go out. You're playing against a lousy team that's got, a backup quarterback, a team that's not very good. You said one of the top 32 teams. Yes, they're one of the top 32 teams.
Just barely, but they're in there.
They squeaked it.
But they ran the football effectively last night. And that's really, in order for the Broncos to be a successful team during the course of the year, they have got to be able to run the football, which they haven't been able to do.
Yeah, but I don't
since
think
Terrell Davis.
I don't think he wants to run the football. He wants to
win
his way. He wants to make it. Like another guy that used to coach here. He wants to be the mastermind, all right? He wants that kind of reaction. And running the football doesn't get you a lot of praise.
But the mastermind you're talking about learned that the way he was going to win the Super Bowl.
And the mastermind ran the football maybe better than any coach of his era. He could take Reuben Drones, the Landis Gary,
Terrell Davis was pretty good.
Terrell Davis was the outlier, but he did it with other backs,
and
he was able to do it. Plus, the mastermind once said about Jake Plummer, who I just talked to, what a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he said, it took me a while to convince Jake. After 9 years in Arizona, a punt's a good thing. And what do you mean? Well, you're always going on 3rd and 15 down there every single series trying to make a play. Up here, we got a good defense. Just punt. We'll get it back. But the Broncos should run the ball more.
Okay. The question it's got a turn that I had going into the week is, here was a team that if Joe Burrow had played, they could have lost the game.
Yep.
Sure.
I mean, he's that good. He makes a difference in a game. That they were in danger of becoming 1 and 3 for the season. They're playing the Philadelphia Eagles next week on the road. They've got both the New York teams, and you wonder about the New York teams because the Giants just won a game, and people have joked about the Giants. And the Jets are, up and down. That game's in London. That game could go either way. That they were in danger, in my mind, of possibly becoming a 1-6 team and being finished for the season, as far as I go. Do you think that game last night gave them the I don't want to say, I hate the word momentum. I think that's the most overused word in sports, but gave them the propensity, let me use that word, which is badly used here, but does it give them the propensity to actually be able to go and offer the Eagles an opportunity to give themselves a chance to win? Are they able to now run off a string that makes them back being what people thought going into the season that they might be this year in terms of a challenger for at least the conference
The
championship.
Eagles have been an anomaly this year. I mean, they are 4-0, and they do have a certain inevitability about them. When they're in a tight game, they're going to win, and both teams seem to know it. And the Broncos that's clearly the toughest game on their regular season schedule, and that includes the AFC West games. That's the best team in the league right now. But they statistically have been outgained in yardage. They have not gotten big production out of Saquon Barkley and their quarterback, and nothing stands out on what they do, but they win. They make plays. They make plays in the special teams. They do all these things right. But if you want to dismiss the Broncos win as a walkover last night, home against Cincinnati, do you also give the Broncos any grace if they go to Philly and play the toughest team in the league? And
no, I don't give them any grace. This is the NFL.
This is your measuring stick.
Yeah, this
every
is the
week.
measuring stick. You only have 17. Every game's important. To answer Woody's question, I do think they will show up and be competitive, but I don't think it has much to do with last night's game, because last night's game you're not going to draw a lot of confidence from. I think it goes to your point that they're playing a Philadelphia team that's not hitting on all cylinders. Their best wide receiver is sending out cryptic tweets. I don't know what he means. And I think that the Broncos can go and compete. I wouldn't predict that they would win the game, but I think they can be. I look at it more as that game would be more of a confidence builder. A loss to Philadelphia where they hung in and played them tough, for me, would be more building confidence than beating that team the other night that probably couldn't beat anybody.
Can we widen the subject a little bit? I'm looking and I go, the Baltimore Ravens 1-3, hurt. Your quarterback's hurt again. Looking around the league, the Chargers came out flaring,
right,
if you will. They lose a game. And I'm thinking, is this what the NFL always used to pray for, was, let's have equality throughout the league. And right now, I'm going to put both of you on the spot. Who's the best team in the NFL? I mean, are we talking about
fast.
Who is that?
Natasha, who actually runs this show,
is
telling us to answer quickly. Are we running out of time here?
I'm gonna buzz.
You're leaning on the buzzer.
Okay,
the Eagles
quickly.
are the best team in the National Football League.
Buffalo Bills.
I'm going with you. Buffalo Bills, to me, have the most
All right,
team.
move on.
Uh-oh. Just got buzzed.
Natasha's going to be a part of our show. We
Yeah.
love having her here, except when she buzzes us, which is all too frequently.
And
But
the thing
Gotta
about it
keep 'em
is,
on track.
we
They're
have to pay
yappers.
attention, or HR comes out during the show.
all right, enough of that. Mina Kimes joins us when we come back. One of the best things about After the Horn is we have a massive budget. And with that, we're able to afford some of the best guests in all the world. And for that, today, we're thrilled to be joined by one of Woody's friends from around the Horn. Mina Kimes is our special guest, Woody.
I would say one of my closest friends. Mina and I don't think have ever met. Mina, do you think we've ever?
No, never. Actually, I think you are the only Around the Horn panelist who I've never met in person. That's crazy.
We did a podcast once and we did shows. We did about 50 shows probably together, but it was odd about Around the Horn that you could work with people for 7 years and you'd show up in a press box and somebody'd say, well, Mina's your friend. Who is Mina? Yeah. How much do you miss it?
You know what? I miss it a lot. I miss two things, I would say. The friendships and camaraderie. Like, I miss just being able to check in with Tim Kalishaw before the there's long breaks. People don't know this, before and between segments. So we would just kind of chop it up. So I miss that aspect of it. And then I'm not gonna lie, I actually miss weighing in on sports other than football. Like, my main job at ESPN is to talk about the NFL. I love the NFL. I'm so grateful that that's my main job. But like, I'm watching college football or baseball, and this Mariners run is amazing, and I have nowhere to put all of those thoughts. So it's definitely changed the way I watch sports.
Do you think that you regret that I once told my parents I wished I had the opportunity to choose better parents because I'd have wanted richer parents that lived in Hawaii or Maui or something like that.
Uh-oh.
Do you regret that you chose to have a father who had a specific team that he liked so much that you were stuck with that team your whole life?
Okay, it is funny because I am now facing the decision of whether to inflict that generational trauma on my own son because he's 2 years old and we live in LA, right? And we're pretty close to Dodger Stadium. I could just let him be a Dodgers fan. Which is like being born into wealth. And yet I am going to do the same thing that my parents did to me, which is I am going to make him a Mariners fan. Now, that said, it is very funny to me that like he might be just born into an era in which the Mariners are really good, which has obviously been the case this year because, I went through decades of pain. But yeah, we inherit these teams and then we make the decision to keep passing it down. And that's what I'm going to do.
Son, this is the big dumper. He will be your idol for your whole
we live
young
in Denver.
life.
We're not allowed to let our children become Colorado Rockies fans. It's a little known law here. So we
That's
always
child
tell
abuse.
them,
Yeah. Yeah,
Hey,
you
how
should
do
get
you
a phone
like-
call if you do that.
what do you think of the NFL right now, the state of the NFL? Do you think it's healthy? Do you think they have a lot of questions? Do you think the arrow is pointing up? What's your general feel?
I think we're in a good moment right now because it feels like there's a lot of parity. The Eagles are 4-0 and they probably look like the best team in the NFL. The Bills look really, really good. But I don't think anyone's running away with this season. And I genuinely think that's a good thing for teams like the Chiefs, certainly the 1-3 Ravens, the Lions to have weaknesses. It's good. I'm every week we look at these matchups and we pick the games. And I would say this year, I feel that they're a lot harder to pick maybe than they've been in years past. And that's probably a good thing for the league.
Can you help us with our Broncos? Last night, America had to watch the Dolphins and Jets and the ghost of the Cincinnati Bengals play the Broncos. So I don't know what we learned, but the Broncos sit here 2-2. They could be 4-0. They're going to go to Philly. I mean, do you see it happening here in Denver? Something like the likes of a playoff run?
I think they're a playoff team. I think that they have a Super Bowl caliber defense. Obviously they were lights out last night. I think offensively, Nix has been really up and down so far this season. He made a couple good throws last night, but I think perhaps more importantly, you saw the run game finally take off. Granted, against, like you said, a very moribund Bengals defense. But that to me has been kind of the missing piece with this Broncos offense. You thought last year, they got this great offensive line, but they can't run the ball. Well, what if we add J.K. Dobbins and we dropped it back? And it just hasn't really lived up to expectations. But last night it felt like, okay, finally they're able to run the football efficiently. This is never going to be a passing attack. Never is a little strong, but they're not going to light the world on fire through the air. But if they can run the ball, play action off of it, Knicks can hit a few shots downfield a game. I think that's good enough when you pair it with the defense that they have.
I can't go through the entire show, having worked with you for years, without talking about the most important aspect of your life. And I'm not talking about your husband. I'm talking about your dog. Where is he?
Lenny.
I don't know where he is. He actually, during the day, I thought you were going to say my son for a second there. I think he's downstairs. He's kind of a lone wolf. He does his own thing during the day. Then when it's mealtime, suddenly he mysteriously appears and is glued to my side while I'm eating. And then he disappears again until it's time for him to eat. He's very food motivated, shall we say.
I do have a serious question that I get asked and 5 times this week in talking to young students, and you and I both wanting to be journalists of some sort, maybe not sports. And they say to me, how do we get into this now? And I respond by saying, if I were you, I would be looking for what the next big thing is going to be in sports journalism. Do you have a next big thing that's going to explode, that's not going to be YouTube or podcast or what we're doing here? What is it you'd like to do next in your life?
Oh, gosh, me. Well, I kind of like what I'm doing now, to be honest. I think for young journalists, it's really important to master short form video, obviously. And that's something that I'm trying and mostly failing to get better at. But I think just getting the opportunity to continue studying football, getting better at talking about it, getting better at understanding the game, and platforms, you know this from covering sports so long. Platforms change. So one day it's writing, then it's TV, then it's YouTube, then it's video. But actually understanding a sport and being able to talk about it will never not be useful, I think. And so to me, that's always going to be my focus. And I'll just, wherever I meet people to talk about football, maybe that changes, but I just want to make sure I'm good at actually talking about the sport.
Well, you're terrific at it. I don't think there's
job.
any question about it. But so when you say you're enjoying college football, of course, the Mariners will be center stage in your life, hopefully, for you for a long run now. But do you watch the Ryder Cup? Are there any other sports that attract you or interest you?
Yeah, I like college football a lot. And I really have to watch it around draft time because we cover the draft a lot on my shows.
Mhm.
And that's a very focused way of watching, which is you're watching the prospects and you're watching their tape. But during the season, I'm somehow both a Washington Huskies and Nebraska football fan because I was born in Nebraska and then I was raised a Huskies fan by my dad. So I get to just be a fan and watch those teams during the season. And they've both been pretty compelling this year. So that's fun for me.
Yeah. When I first met her and found out that she was from Nebraska, and I said, it must have been tough all those years that for the first 4 weeks of every season that you had to play teams that were directional teams from college teachers teams and stuff like that. But she had to actually grow out of that and go to another state where she could watch real football for a period of time. Do you still have a love for the Cornhuskers?
Man, I wish they could tackle, but they got a good quarterback. I think Raiola is good. I think Rule's got the program going in the right direction. Just they're not quite there yet defensively, I think, in the trenches to keep up with the true powerhouses.
Mina, you do a million things. We appreciate you taking a few minutes to spend some time after the horn with your old friend Woody, myself, and Ron. It's been nice to chat with you, and thanks so much again.
Yeah, it was great to see you, Woody. It's good to catch up. Hope you're well.
Yeah, I can't remember a time you beat me in the final showdown.
I can think of a few. Roll the tape.
I trust her memory.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mina.
Great to
guys.
see you, kid.
One of the best things about this particular show is you have three really old guys talking about sports, which means that it all started somewhere. Let's take a look back at where it started, and we'll start with Woody Paige, the dean of our group. And Woody, you came to Denver, was it 1974?
Yeah.
How was that?
Strange. My memory is I'm driving from Memphis in a Honda, which is still my favorite car.
Oh,
Hondas
nice.
last forever. I wish I still had that Honda. I'm driving from Memphis, and I drive from Memphis to Oklahoma City, Tulsa, and I'm driving up, and I end up in Kansas, and I saw hail like I'd never seen before, and I don't know what to do. I do not know what to do with hail, and I get under an interstate
One of the
bridge,
overpasses, yeah.
and I sit there for about 2 hours, and I go, is this going to be like this the rest of my life? That I'm going to have to I'm going to spend all this time in Colorado. I don't know Colorado. I'd been to Colorado a few times, and because I was covering the ABA, and I get there, and it's late May, and the next week it snows, and I go, I'm going through hail, snow.
What am
I doing here? And my first column basically was, if you were to look at it, sorry to tell you people, and I was taught to be honest by my parents, and I thought, well, what's your first column going to be? I'm sorry to tell you people, but when your football team comes on TV, we turn to another station. We'll watch
How'd that go over.
We'll watch soccer from Yugoslavia rather than watch the Broncos. And I get a call. I'll make this a short story. I get a call from Bob Peck. You guys remember him?
Sure.
As a PR
Broncos,
director for
yeah.
the Denver Broncos, and he said, Coach John Ralston would like to have you at his office at 3:00 after practice tomorrow. So after practice, if you'll stick around, I said, it wasn't planning to come to practice tomorrow. What am I going to see? Your team's not any good. And I said, I'll be in my office at 3 o'clock if you'd like to come down. I'm at the Rocky Mountain News, which is next to people who showed up yesterday know where the Denver Mint is, and that's where the Rocky Mountain News was. And I said, I'll be in at 3 o'clock. The coach is not going to come down to the Rocky Mountain News. So I show up, and the first thing he said is, so, son, when did you get here from New York? I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm just a goof kid, columnist from Memphis, Tennessee. He said, you need to go back to New York City. That's not the way things are done here. And the media, and you guys joined me, the media had been very friendly to the Broncos, saying, oh, our Broncos played a good game yesterday against the Chargers and were edged out 56-3. And so I went, that's not the way you do things. You actually,
you and I have talked about this over the years and years. How long did it take for people in Denver to get you? Do you know what I mean?
It was odd back when the newspaper business actually was important.
Yep.
Yes.
And I would go in the morning to a diner downtown, the old days of Denver, and I'd see people with the Rocky Mountain News. And the reason why the Rocky Mountain News was more popular then than the Denver Post was, you could just open up
you could handle it
and read it
easy.
while you were sitting at a diner. And I look at people, and people would kind of even tear up the paper and throw it in the trash. And I went, I don't know whether this is going to go well here at all. But what I found is that half the people were Broncos fans that live or die. And the other half were people who had come from other places and were accustomed to following the Mets or the Red Sox as a baseball team, Cardinals as a baseball team, Cubs, whatever it might be, that wanted somebody to tell the truth about what was going on here in Denver. And I remember telling my young wife at the time, I said, I think half the people hate me and half the people like me. And she said, well, that's fair enough. That's what you should be going for. I said, no, I was hoping everybody would like me.
Yeah.
I mean, we're new in town because we could be on a short string and sent out of here. But
were you ever prodded by publishers, editors to do more or less of that opinion, or was that just always who you were? And were you left to be?
That's really a good question. I never had an editor or publisher at the Rocky Mountain News. They brought me in. They said, we want you to be different. We're in a newspaper war in the 70s against the Denver Post and against the Rocky Mountain News. And they said, we want you to be your kind of wild, objective, opinionated, and not anybody ever said to me, don't write that. Don't write that. Don't pick on them. Don't be negative toward them. Write what you believe. And that's why, a major reason why I came here is, instead of going to Atlanta, which was the place that I would have ended up for $5 more a week than I was making in Memphis.
Well, the Broncos almost ended up there too.
The fact that I could have been. Arizona, for people who don't know and don't have a history of it, the two places that the Denver Broncos were headed were either Atlanta or Arizona, because it wasn't going over well here. But I felt like I was supported. That's the key thing. One of the reasons I came here, I was supported by Michael Baffhausen. The newspaper was owned by Scripps Howard, and he was the youngest of the Howards, and he was in his 30s, and he was a guy who was trying to win a newspaper war when newspaper wars meant something. And he said, I want you to be real. I want you to be honest. I want you to be willing to say what you believe. He said, we're going to beat the Denver Post, which they ended up actually doing.
Let me give you another theory, and you tell me if you buy it or not. And especially for me and you, Tom came a little bit later. When we came to Denver, I thought the two most important media figures in Denver were Dick Connor, writer for the Denver Post, and Bob Martin on KOA radio.
Sure.
I worked with Bob, and you worked kind of against Dick, but they were so different and God rest their souls. I liked them both a lot.
Good men.
But Dick was great. But Dick, unlike Woody, would write a column saying the Broncos are terrible, and then at the end of the column he might write, well, they're not so bad. And Bob Martin looked at things from a media perspective far differently than I did, and we butted heads a lot, and we eventually came to kind of an agreeable place. Would you buy that kind of theory? That it made it harder for us?
I would just add to that there's a reason why Dick Connor and Bob Martin have press boxes named after them.
Streets.
And neither him or me.
And never will.
So maybe we didn't really, like the end of Miracle on 34th Street where the guy said, maybe I didn't do so good.
You're right.
You know, you walk into you walk into press box and you go, oh boy, there's a gigantic mural of Bob Martin next to Dick Connor. Guys that we both worked with for years and years.
Yes, forever.
And that the two guys that came along and said, you know, we're kind of going to change things in the media here. But I think what it did, we were not in front. I think we were a part of Denver changing from being the dusty old cow town that didn't have a major league hockey team, didn't have a good pro basketball team in a bad league at that time, the ABA. And I think we were part of what Denver basically became, because when I got here, the two things that just stunned me, not knowing Denver, Colorado, was that on Saturday nights, kids would go up and down 16th Avenue in their cars. They'd do 16th Avenue and do a circle. And I went, that's stuff you do in
small town.
In Columbia, Missouri or something like that. And secondly, I found it amazing that when the stock show came up, and stock show was the biggest story here, bigger than any of the sports teams, that when the stock show came in late January, they'd put the Christmas lights back up on City Hall. And I went, why were they doing that? Well, because the Cowboys didn't get to see all the Cowboys wanted to see Christmas lights. So I think that we didn't really start any kind of, it would have been somebody.
Yes, I agree. The timing was right. Denver was ready to move into the next millennium.
But I always remember John Ralston saying, you need to go back to New York where you came from. And I don't know that I'd been in New York City. Oh,
speaking of timing,
Natasha, thanks
but
for
they
that.
Were good stories, though.
Yeah, no, that's fun to look back on media days gone by. We'll do more of that here on After the Horn. There's some gears that need grinding. Ron's going to kick that with us next. Well, it's time to find out whose gears need grinding. Ron, you were watching that game last night, and it put a cap on something for you.
It's not even last night. I'll tell you what bothers me, fellas. I'm watching that Arizona-Seattle game on Thursday night.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of invested in it. Good game. Arizona comes back, scores a couple of touchdowns, okay? And they tie the game with 28 seconds to go. And then in the words of Peyton Manning, the idiot kicker kicks off and misses something called the landing spot. I've been covering football for a long time. I didn't know there was a landing spot. I knew about other spots, never the landing spot. Anyway, they give Seattle the ball at the 40-yard line. I got news for them. The field's only 100 yards, so 40% of the field they just give to him. Sam Darnold throws one pass, boom, out comes the kicker, 55-yard field goal, and the game is over. That's not how it's supposed to be in the NFL. I know they've changed the rules because they want to make the game safer. That's BS. If they really wanted to make the game safer, they wouldn't play on Thursday night. They just want more offense. Here's what you do. Go back to the old rules, have the kickers who have big legs kick the ball through the end zone and make them get a few first downs before they kick a game-winning field goal. And on top of that, I've watched for 4 weeks now. Every swinging you-know-what kicker in the NFL can now kick a 58-yard field goal like it's 30 yards. They got to do something. They got to do one of two things, and I don't think they will. They either got to change the points from 3 to 2 because the kicks are too easy, or they've got to shrink the goalposts. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. In another year or two, these guys will be kicking 70, 73, 74-yard field goals. They'll kick off to them. They'll go 3 and out. They'll run the kicker in, 70-yard field goal. It must change. It has to change.
You know, I think in our quest for sponsorship, I'm sure there's blood pressure medication out there that wants to sponsor our show. That grinds your gears. I could tell.
Well, I had to sell the point.
I get it. Woody?
I just had to sit through something that I don't understand. And when I say I don't understand what the rule is.
I don't either. I don't even know the rule. I don't know where they put the ball anymore.
You and I combined have covered 100 years worth of NFL football. And I'm watching a game with some people, and they said, why did they stand there? Why are they not running down?
Well, we've
the
seen
field?
for years, players on special teams don't know the rules half the time anyway. As soon as a kick is blocked, it turns into, you can tell 2 guys know the rules, and the other 20 are going.
But here's what you're missing on. The game is called football.
Okay, fine.
And so football's got to be a part of the game at some point.
The kicker shouldn't be more important than the quarterback.
But there is something inherently wrong when guys are trying 70-yard football. We saw it once. We're old enough to remember when the Denver Broncos tried a game in New England, a 72-yard field goal at the end of a half. There's something inherently wrong with a game that is violent and action-filled and everything, and it comes down to all the time, oh, man, can he kick a 60-yard field goal? And then you got the visiting team saying, let's pull out a play that we tried 11 years ago in New Orleans to stop a 60-yard field goal. How many plays does it take to stop a 60-yard field goal? People shouldn't be able to make 60-yard.
I think the one thing they can do, you talk about, reducing the points or squeezing the goalposts, but you could also, if a guy's going to try a field goal of that sort of length, bring out the crowd from Bethpage.
Start screaming about his wife or his family.
Bring out the Long Island crowd.
Is that your
No, I was going to go into the Ryder Cup because that turned into such a circus. But I can't believe we're sitting here and the Major League Baseball playoffs are getting underway today. The season ended on Sunday, and the Rockies, after their record-setting year, are still waiting to make any sort of announcement because, now it's time to start thinking about it. Like they knew where they were going to be on April 20th. They could have started planning for what was going to happen on the day after the Major League Baseball season. But all of a sudden, they're still sitting there going, I don't know. What do you think about this? It's amazing.
I read that this morning. They said, well, where do you think they're going to go with the manager? Do you think they'll keep him around? What are they going to do with the... Hello, June, we're sitting here.
Here's our plan.
You guys know in June, I'm saying, here, you got to do this. If you have any chance in the future, I don't think they've had a meeting. Let's have a meeting in a week. Let's go to Breckenridge.
We should do a getaway
and talk about whether, we got a general manager. We need to kind of discuss whether we give him go watch or whether we give him a 3-year extension.
No, and you think of people like Lane Kiffin getting fired on a tarmac, or all of these people who make sudden decisions. The Rockies have had the luxury of nothing else this year but time. They've had months and months and months to start thinking about next year and trying to not become one of those infamous.
They really, Tom, had years and years.
True, but even now, now you have that subtle change as Dick Monfort handing things off to Walker Monfort. But it's like, but now what are you going to do? Why are we waiting?
Yeah, I would just like to throw this in because it's important to me. College football, growing up in the South, that with all the problems that are going on in college football, the one thing that's staying steady, we're seeing at the beginning of the year, is teams are upsetting teams.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the essence of a college football that you go, Alabama loses a game? Oh, Alabama beats Georgia.
Right.
Yep.
I like that aspect, and I hope that we can keep that alive with the NIL, with everything else that's going on in football. Is you like it to come down to the possibility that teams like Kent State can win a game, that it's not rewarded.
Plus, in the college game, you don't have to kick it into the landing zone.
No, you don't. You can just kick it off.
Landing zone.
Landing spot, landing zone. Go ahead. One more thing about Bethpage. What did you think?
So are you madder at the crowd? Are you madder at the Americans? Are you madder at Keegan Bradley?
I'm not mad at anybody. I think the golf gods reacted appropriately to a group of guys who are all wealthy beyond their wildest dreams, who wanted to get paid $500,000 to play in the Ryder Cup, and they were beaten by a group of guys who not only didn't get paid any money, but you can tell, not that it doesn't mean anything to the Americans, it means more to the Europeans.
So much easier to blame. I will say this, though, more than blame. I've never seen anybody play like the Europeans did those first 2 days. They hit every shot stiff. They made every putt.
They made every putt.
They
Can
were
we say one more thing?
tremendous.
And I loved watching Scotty Scheffler. He's the best player in the world. He was awful.
He didn't have
He was
couldn't
awful.
make anything.
Hey, you and I would have hit that shot on 18 better than he did on Saturday. That was a near shank.
That was
him.
scary. That was
So,
scary to see.
You know,
And I would just add one sentence. You think the Ryder Cup would come down to a guy from Northern Ireland, best player in the world. No, it comes down to another guy from Northern Ireland who looks like he should be playing guard for the Denver Broncos.
who probably endured 3 days of jokes about his size that were probably jokes that we probably couldn't.
I liked it.
And he might have taken more offense to things that were said about his friend than about himself. And I have a hunch that he was full.
The crowd behavior is awful. But golfers are so insulated from what bad behavior is. Have them go ask a baseball player or a basketball player about crowds and what they say to you. Are you kidding me?
But let's not make it okay to go to a golf event
It's
and
not
behave
okay.
like that. It's golf.
But you know
it's
what?
Different.
Hey, Tom, it's not okay. But as long as they serve alcohol at these events and they let people drink all day and drink all throughout the whole day, what do they expect?
I say these things, the exact same things, but only to myself when I'm playing.
Yes, so do
I
I.
use the same language.
Two smart guys. This was all started in Arizona.
It was. So we got the waste management open.
Yeah.
Thank for
You have
all
a
this.
garbage tournament,
Yep.
a tournament named for garbage, where people can
Do what they
where
want.
they can throw beer
Yeah.
onto
Yep.
when a guy's
Good.
putting,
Yeah.
Great point. Great point.
and you go, okay, well, everything else
cool.
in the world has
Seems
to be
like fun.
calm. Oh, we're playing against another world, across the pond, and let's don't be like in Arizona where. So
It's the Ryder Cup.
It's also, Tom, it's the world we live in. We live, because of our political climate now, you can say any damn thing you want to anybody. It's okay.
Like, stop talking.
That's it. Natasha's
Oh,
cutting us off. But that's it for this edition. Another wildly successful edition
We'll be the judge of that.
of After the Horn. And right now there are odds on us making it to a third show next week. But you can take
What
care
are
of that
they?
at your
What
local
are they,
sports
though?
book.
Give us those odds. We're gamblers.
Well, let's just say they're moving.
I mean, I'd
We're
like
plus
to.
one. We're plus
I'd like-
175.
I'd like to
me.
call, one of the drafting outfits and say, I'd like to take the minus.
Yeah.
It's another great day spent with you guys.
Oh.
Hopefully with everyone watching and listening as well. We hope to see you again next week on another edition of After the Horn.